Kymir is a distant planet. It is defined by waves of life brought from Earth and set free to evolve independently in this new context. The indigenous life of the planet, swarms of microbes called magic by the people who live there, are what harvest Earth organisms and make copies on Kymir. As the asteroid which concluded the Mesozoic never struck Kymir, dinosaurs remain the dominant terrestrial megafauna. The Highlands of Picardia are among the least explored regions of the known world. Much of the flora and fauna here is unique to the region. While the lowlands are almost entirely comprised of mainland fauna, dozens of highland species can trace their ancestry back to the polar continent of Kaishal, to which the island was once connected millions of years ago. In the folklore of the Pakardian, the highland beasts were once the true inhabitants of the islands, but mainland invaders drove them up inland. While this is technically true, many highland fauna considered to be formed of Pakardian soil are themselves descended from invasive species. Among the earliest mainland migrants to Pakardia were small apes, either swimming on their own or on the back of sloths, and while many of these did not establish themselves, one species took to the highlands and became among the largest herbivores in Pakardia, the mighty Angaru, sage of the highlands. The largest ape of Earth or Kymir, the Angaru lives in small troops led by the eldest female and defended by a single male, who is the mate to the matriline. While females already weigh an impressive 600 to 800 pounds, making them the same size as both second largest ape species, male Angaru can weigh over a ton. This size affords them a degree of protection, although even the largest males are still prey to the Urotaku, apex predator of Pakardia's highland ecosystem. Females and young are prey to the red panther, Indrakai, and sometimes even adult males will be brought down by groups of Weochituka drakes, although generally an adult male can hold his own in these encounters. Although once believed to be pongeens related to orangutans or Gigantopithecus, it is now understood that they are closer related to gibbons. Much of the Angaru's diet is tough wetland vegetation. They often congregate around the Great Lakes. In this niche they compete with the Jiao, or Highland drakes, and the recently arrived Kymiran moose. The Jiao is a resident of the Great Lakes, while the moose and Angaru only come to feed. Conflicts between all three species happen, as males of each are territorial, but these encounters are rarely fatal. While foraging in the hills and mountains, those sometimes encounter hugolgor, highland sloths, red elk, and forest drakes, but the sloths are the only ones that pose much of a threat to the apes, and the apes can reliably outpace them. With year-round rains that sometimes come as snow, the Angaru has far denser coat than most apes, which aside from the Angaru are all tropical species in Kymir. Especially on their arms, the hair is water resistant, and by holding the little ones close, this dense hair helps keep their young warm. While foraging, young stay on the backs of the adults. Males, being fairly certain of paternity, as females will warn him and chase off males who are not their mate, take a much more active role in parenting than most large apes, and usually is the one to have the most young on his back while they forage, as he is larger and better able to keep them out of the water. Angaru will sometimes make a home base further inland from the lakes. Although they do not make much investment in tools, they seem to have repurposed a nest-building instinct or tradition to weave a fence around their sleeping quarters. These structures allow for a degree of safety, and has likely deterred many potential threats from catching them off guard. For most of Kymir's history, the Angaru was not believed to be a real animal by Kymiran naturalists. The Highlands of Picardia were said to have all sorts of giant versions of lowland animals, the prime bodies of their woodland spirits, which was dismissed as folklore. The Highlands, with all their giant beasts and unfamiliar fauna, such as the heterothermic predator the Juono, are described in Pakardian folklore like an inverse of the deep ocean, being a place of great wonder, danger, and plenty for those who abide by the laws of the spirits. The Pakardian know them to be real, of course, and it was only within the past few centuries that naturalists have even verified their existence, much less studied them in any great detail. The Angaru holds great cultural importance not only to Pakardians living in the Highlands today and their lowland cousins, it is a common motif in the artwork of the few remaining clans of indigenous peoples descended from the earliest Homo erectus settlers. One such Highland clan, which is said to be survived only by a single witch, is named for the Angaru. Garuchate is said to be a towering witch of mixed heritage, Kymir and indigenous Highlander, who is accompanied by his familiar Ujan, an ape of unprecedented size. Garuchate occasionally visits the Picardians, even in the Lowland Confederacy, to warn them of coming threats, such as Maku invasions or the catalyst of the War of the Three Spears, which nearly resulted in the conquest of Pakardia, and many more would have fallen without his warnings and intervention. As the largest and mightiest of apes, the Angaru is a formidable and imposing sight in the Highlands of Picardia. In many ways, they seem a manifestation of the mystery and majesty of this cryptic habitat. Cheers to Grisat for sponsoring this episode. I was stoked to get the suggestion, as this is an animal I've grown quite fond of, especially after the Apes of Kymir episode that Grisat also sponsored. I'm failing out the remaining episodes for the next few months, so if there's a topic you'd like to sponsor, don't hesitate to reach out at theillustratedmenagerie@gmail.com and we can get started. That's all for today. Next week we will explore the bear necessities, learning about the handful of bears that have managed to make Kymir their home. Cheers, folks!